What happens when local police officers handcuff and arrest a three-star Air Force general over a verbal disagreement during a traffic stop? And within 4 hours, the Pentagon, the Secretary of Defense, and the base commander are all personally involved in getting him released. This is the explosive true story from August 2021 that exposed dangerous gaps in how civilian law enforcement interacts with senior military personnel, sparked immediate policy reforms, and nearly triggered a constitutional crisis over jurisdictional authority. And the body cam footage is absolutely stunning. It's a scorching afternoon in August 2021 near Goldsboro, North Carolina, home to Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. Lieutenant General Marcus Freeman, a 54-year-old three-star general and deputy commander of Air Combat Command, is driving off base in civilian clothes heading to a community event when he's pulled over by Officer Kyle Jennings of the Wayne County Sheriff's Department for allegedly speeding, doing 62 in a 55 zone. Freeman pulls over immediately, has his military ID ready alongside his driver's license, and greets Officer Jennings professionally. "Good afternoon, officer. I'm Lieutenant General Freeman from Seymour Johnson. Here are my credentials." He's courteous, calm, and expecting a routine interaction. Jennings takes the documents, but immediately adopts a confrontational stance. "General or not, you were speeding. I don't care what rank you hold. On civilian roads, you follow civilian laws." Freeman, who's commanded thousands of personnel and has diplomatic experience in conflict zones, stays measured. "I understand completely, officer. I'm not disputing the stop. I'm simply identifying myself as required." But Jennings interprets this as disrespect or an attempt to intimidate him with rank. "You think your uniform makes you special? You think I should just let you go because you're military? That's not how this works." Freeman, confused by the hostility, responds, "Officer, I haven't asked for special treatment. I'm complying fully. Is there a problem?" This is where a routine traffic stop transforms into something unprecedented. Jennings calls for backup, claiming the driver is being difficult and possibly threatening. Within minutes, 2 more deputies arrive. Freeman, still in his vehicle, asks what's happening. Deputy Sarah Mitchell approaches and demands he exit the vehicle immediately. Freeman complies, but asks, "Can someone explain why backup was called for a speeding ticket?" Mitchell's response escalates the situation catastrophically. "We don't answer to you, General, or whatever you claim to be. You need to adjust your attitude right now." Freeman, a man who's briefed presidents and testified before Congress, takes a breath before responding. "I've shown no disrespect. I've complied with every instruction." This seems like an excessive response to a minor traffic violation. What happens next is captured on 3 body cameras. Jennings interprets Freeman's calm questioning as continued disrespect and makes a decision that will define the rest of his career. "You're under arrest for obstruction and disorderly conduct." Freeman, stunned, states clearly, "Officer, I'm a senior military commander. I have not obstructed anything. I'm asking you to contact the base provost marshal before you proceed." Jennings responds, "I don't work for the military. Turn around." Freeman is handcuffed, placed in the back of a patrol car, and his personal belongings, including his military phone with classified access, are confiscated. Here's where the situation becomes a genuine crisis. Freeman's aide, Captain Rodriguez, had been following the general's vehicle as standard security protocol and witnessed the entire interaction from a distance. Rodriguez immediately contacts the base command post, triggering an emergency notification chain. Within 30 minutes, Colonel David Hawkins, the base commander, is personally calling the Wayne County Sheriff demanding an explanation. Within 90 minutes, the Pentagon's Office of General Counsel is involved. Within 2 hours, a brigadier general from Air Combat Command Headquarters is on a plane to North Carolina. And within 3 hours, the Secretary of the Air Force has been briefed and has contacted the governor of North Carolina directly. The body cam footage, later reviewed by military and civilian investigators, shows Freeman sitting calmly in the patrol car for over an hour while the deputies complete paperwork, seemingly unaware they've created an intergovernmental incident. Freeman uses the time to assess the situation strategically. He could pull rank aggressively, but that might escalate things. He could demand immediate release through military channels, but that could look like overreach. Instead, he waits quietly, knowing that protocols are already in motion and that the situation will resolve itself once the chain of command fully mobilizes. What he doesn't anticipate is how swiftly and forcefully that response will come. At the 4-hour mark, the sheriff's station receives a phone call from a one-star general at the Pentagon, speaking on behalf of the Secretary of Defense. The message is professional but unmistakable. Lieutenant General Freeman is to be released immediately, all charges dropped, and a full incident report delivered to the Department of Defense within 24 hours. The sheriff, suddenly realizing the magnitude of what's occurred, personally drives to the holding facility where Freeman is waiting and issues an apology that sounds sincere but terrified. Freeman is released without charges. His military phone and credentials are returned, and he's driven back to base by the base commander himself. But Freeman doesn't let this end quietly. As a 3-star general with significant institutional influence, he uses the incident to push for reforms that had been needed for years. Within weeks, the Department of Defense and the Department of Justice established new protocols for law enforcement interactions with senior military personnel. Officers are now trained to recognize military credentials and immediately notify base commanders when detaining active-duty military, especially senior officers. A liaison system is created between major military installations and local law enforcement to prevent jurisdictional confusion. And most significantly, body cam policies are strengthened to ensure all interactions with identified military personnel are reviewed by supervisors before charges proceed. Officers Jennings and Mitchell face internal review. The investigation finds they violated department policy by escalating a minor traffic stop without cause and by ignoring the detainees' repeated requests to contact military authority. Both receive suspensions and mandatory retraining on interactions with military personnel. Jennings later admits in a deposition, "I felt like he was talking down to me, like his rank made him better than me. I let my pride override my judgment." That statement becomes central to the training material now used across law enforcement agencies near military bases, teaching officers to distinguish between respect for authority and perceived challenges to their ego. Freeman gives a speech at the Air Force Association conference 6 months later that goes viral among military communities. "I'm a 3-star general with decades of service, institutional support, and immediate access to the chain of command. I was released in hours. But I keep thinking about the young airman or soldier who gets pulled over, tries to respectfully identify themselves, and gets interpreted as difficult or disrespectful. They don't have stars on their shoulders or the Secretary of Defense making calls on their behalf." This incident exposed gaps in how civilian and military authority interact, and we've made progress. But we have further to go. Here's the uncomfortable truth General Freeman's detention revealed. Even senior military leaders aren't immune to being misunderstood, disrespected, or unlawfully detained when pride and authority clash during routine encounters. The officers involved weren't malicious. They were defensive, feeling challenged, and they made terrible decisions as a result. But the swift response from the military chain of command and the policy reforms that followed show what accountability looks like when institutions take violations seriously. Freeman could have crushed those officers' careers with a single phone call. Instead, he used the incident to create systemic improvements that protect service members at every rank. If this story made you think about respect, authority, and how easily situations can escalate when ego overrides professionalism, hit that like button and share your thoughts in the comments. Have you seen conflicts between civilian and military authority? Subscribe for more stories about institutional accountability, policy reform, and the moments when one person's experience becomes the catalyst for change that protects thousands of others. Because sometimes getting handcuffed for 4 hours is what it takes to fix a broken system. And sometimes, that's exactly what leadership looks like, turning your own violation into protection for everyone who serves after you.